All right, we're about to dive into a story you think you know, a famous fall from the sky. But we're not going to look at it as a cautionary tale. No, we're looking at it through the lens of this incredibly fierce manifesto, one that reframes the entire idea of failure, not as an end, but as a declaration of war on playing it safe. And boom, right from the very first line, the tone is set. This isn't some quiet reflection. This is a confrontation. It's the sound of a lightning bolt talking directly to the lazy, stagnant Earth. And that framing, right there, sets up everything that's about to follow.
And this is the central heresy we have to grapple with. What if that spectacular crash, the melting rocks and the plummet from the sky, what if that wasn't the mistake? What if it was the entire glorious point of the whole journey?
So really get our heads around this idea, we first have to understand what it's fighting against. The manifesto calls it the cult of caution. It's this deep-seated belief that the best thing you can possibly do is just not get hurt. So the core belief of this cult is what the source calls the middle way. Now, normally we think of that as a good thing, right? Wisdom, balance. But in this text, it's flipped completely on its head. It's not a path of moderation. It's a path of fear. It's a prison you build for yourself to keep from ever really, truly living. And this quote just drives that accusation right home. The argument here is that we've made caution into a god, but it's really just a mask for being afraid, a way to justify our fear of the exact same fire that forges something great. You can really see the two clashing philosophies here. On one side, you have the stagnant earth, which worships safety. But the manifesto argues that only leads to atrophy, a self-made prison. And then, in total opposition, you have the lightning bolt. It doesn't just tolerate risk, it actively desires the fire because it's seeking transformation up in the boundless high sky. Okay, now we're getting to the absolute heart of it. This is where the story we all thought we knew gets completely turned on its head. The fall itself is about to be put on trial. The manifesto comes right at us, challenging our interpretation head-on. We're all taught to see the fall as this big punishment for flying too high, for getting too ambitious. But this voice just asks a really simple question. Are you sure that's what really happened? Oh, I love the wording here. It's so important. Destruction is just an end. But finishing something? That implies completion, the final step of a process. The sun wasn't a punishment. It was the last, absolutely necessary ingredient to complete the transformation. So here's the conflict laid bare. The conventional view, the cage, sees a tragic fall, a cautionary tale about a failed hero. But the heretical view sees it as a data collection mission. It argues the crash wasn't the death of a hero, but the necessary death of the obedient son, so that the true sovereign striver could finally be born from the wreckage. So if the fall wasn't a failure, then what was it? Well, the manifesto presents it as a kind of alchemy, the process of turning cheap metal into gold. Except in this case, it's about turning a person into something more. This is the core thesis right here. Where the rest of the world sees a disaster, a wreck, the striver sees a successful experiment. The fall was violent, yeah, and probably incredibly painful, but ultimately it was a successful transformation from one state of being to another. So how does this alchemy actually work? Well, it's laid out here. First, you gather all the raw materials of who you are, your soul, your fears, all the wisdom that other people gave you, and you don't protect them. You do the opposite. You shove them into the highest heat you can find. The whole point is to burn away everything that isn't really you, to crack that outer shell of conformity and see what's left. And what's left is your pure, unalloyed core self. So, the crucial point is this. The heat, the fire, the fall, none of it was an accident. It was the tool. It was the only force powerful enough to purify everything, to strip away the borrowed feathers and the secondhand warnings, and to finally reveal what a person is really made of. And out of that fire, a brand new philosophy is born. This isn't just about surviving the fall anymore. It's about building a whole new world based on the lessons you learned from it. And this is the result. Where all the old maps just show an abyss, a big empty void you're supposed to avoid, the sovereign striver forges a completely new path. It's a path that exists because of the fall, not in spite of it. And these are the principles of that new path. You can feel the shift, can't you? From depending on others to being completely sovereign. No more borrowed wings. The goal is to become the motion itself. You're not looking for a safe sky anymore. You're creating a new sky where magnificent risk is the only thing that has any real value. I mean, what a declaration. This is a total rejection of the cult of caution's highest ideal, which is just living for a long time. It chooses a brief, magnificent, world-altering impact over a long, safe, and ultimately meaningless existence. It's quality over quantity taken to its most extreme conclusion. And that brings us to the final, powerful reversal that this whole manifesto is built on. That moment of what the world sees as the greatest failure, it wasn't a conclusion at all. The descent was the beginning. The fire is the gift. The sky is mine. That's a truly provocative thought to end on, isn't it? What if the things we fear the most, what if they aren't endings at all, but the real, necessary, and glorious beginnings we've been waiting for?